So Adaptive has built this repository platform that is based on MOF. And these are some of the kind of enabling capabilities that are provided to our customers and partners, supported through the underlying MOF capabilities. So some of the kind of real foundation functionality around security and role-based access control, the lineage and impact analysis. Actually, we'll kind of dive into that and the traceability in the next slide. Visualization, version management is a real critical element when you're dealing with enterprise scale. Model management, where there's change going on, and then kind of linked to that, the ability to have change approval workflows, so you can actually allow customers and partners to define their own unique processes and governance for how to go through a sequence of review and approval steps, and make sure that you're managing visibility and access control at every step along the way, supporting collaboration and stewardship capabilities. And then we'll talk about separately the whole range of Adaptive's capabilities for importing and harvesting content from third-party tools and technologies. And kind of expanding beyond kind of just the technical domain, for things like metadata management and data lineage. You can see on the screen, Adaptive has a very broad range of domains that we support, spanning the whole 360 degrees of an enterprise, from the strategic side, the process, governance, project and program management, the IT side, from the perspective of things like business applications and software systems and even hardware, organization structures. So all of these are interrelated, so that you can actually look at your enterprise and impact analysis from any perspective. So like if you're looking at, say, a regulation and the impact that it has across the enterprise, right? You could bring up that regulation and see what processes must comply with it, what data elements must comply with it, which organizations have responsibility. Yeah, and so this slide addresses it more from the offering standpoint, right? So like each of these is potentially a separate offering that spans some set of those domains that we showed in the previous slide, but these are kind of specific capabilities that address a very tangible need that is understood in an enterprise.
This is what we call one key area from a data governance perspective is the notion of traceability and data lineage. So traceability is the vertical representation you see here, where you can connect glossaries and terms and definitions and rules to the conceptual, logical, physical models. And so it's a vertical representation of linking and mapping data, to the business side, business to technical side, that allows you to look at terms and definitions, like I said, and map it all the way down to physical implementation, which is very important to have that type of understanding if you really want a holistic view, to understand how data relates on a holistic scale. And the horizontal view is what he's showing is what we call lineage. And this is where we actually have what we've developed over time, a lot of parsers or bridges, as we call them, that can bring in third-party data sources. So it could be an ETL tool like Informatica, it could be a business intelligence tool like Cognos, or various tools in the business intelligence analytics area. It can be data models, it can be anything where data resides. We actually can go in and parse the metadata, and then we automatically connect the connections, which we call stitching. So that's very difficult to do. Most organizations have no idea how to even go about that and implement that. So the combination of traceability and lineage gives organizations the ability to truly understand their data from that perspective. And then they can assign stewardship and roles and governance processes around how they manage this type of complexity. So give you a use case like report rationalization. A lot of companies have reports everywhere, right? They're all over the place. So we can map the glossary the terms that are in the glossaries to the actual BI reports that you see on the right from a traceability perspective. But we can even go much further deeper, as we can actually see the lineage of how the data is moving to those reports. So they start to see inconsistencies, redundancies. They're running jobs of reports they don't even know they have. So that's just one use case. But you can see when you're looking at, like, the example of Western Union, they probably have, what, James, 12, 14 sources of data coming in. At least that are coming in. They're moving data to the cloud. So they're using this type of capability from a stewardship governance perspective to understand how to move all that data, how to classify that data and tag it, and understand, what they're doing. This is very difficult to do. It's very difficult to replicate. And then, of course, all of that is being structured, what we showed you earlier, from a MOF perspective, of the abstraction of how everything's put together. So this runs on the it's all web-based. You can host it on the cloud. They can host it on premise. We run on all the various platforms. It can be Google, Azure, AWS, various platforms that they can implement this.
So the user interface is entirely browser-based, and it is very much a role-based interface. So we believe very strongly that each individual user should only get presented with the capabilities and content that's necessary for the tasks they're performing, so they can become productive and effective as quickly as possible without getting overwhelmed by full exposure to the broad set of capabilities that the tool provides. So the user's role controls how things are visually presented on the screen, the functionality the user has access to, and probably most importantly, what content they have access to. So the entire repository is not visible to anyone unless they are given the appropriate privilege to see everything. So a user then is really narrowed down to just seeing the content that has been deemed appropriate according to their particular role in the activities they're performing. So there's a few ways for users to begin kind of accessing content in the repository. There's navigation maps, there's general search capability, and then underlying queries. So what we're seeing on the screen right now is an example of a navigation map. Navigation maps are actually built with Microsoft Visio by customers themselves. So you're basically enabling customers to create their own role-based home pages so that they can actually dictate exactly visually what the user sees when they log in initially, what terminology is on the screen, and then most importantly, the actions that occur when a user clicks on any shape in their home page. And so when a customer is configuring one of their own navigation maps, they're just simply saying, for a particular shape here, what URL is launched when the user clicks on that shape that takes them to something else in Adaptive. It could be viewing a specific item with a detailed, a detailed view of that individual item. It could be performing some other search or query that you basically are just giving them a shortcut to. It could be opening up a chart or a report. But you're basically putting together in that homepage all the things that you think a user might want to do when they are performing the activities that are appropriate to their particular role. So in this navigation map that we have for this demonstration, we've got links to some specific glossaries and ontologies, business applications, top-level business functions and regulations, and then at the technical level, a data model, database schema, a BI report, and then over on the right-hand side, some charts and graphs and searches that are going to be helpful. So really, a user doesn't have to learn a lot to start being productive. They don't need to learn how to use menus and searches and queries and things like that. They just open up, go to their homepage, and they're going to see the things that are meaningful to them. So like if I'm digging into a glossary, I see my glossary, I just point and click. It opens up the details of a glossary. Glossaries are essentially containers of a set of business terms within some scope of the enterprise. It could be by organization, it could be according to a particular project or a particular system. So that's up to the steward who's creating the glossary to dictate what's the scope of this particular glossary. So there's the compliance organization, and so that definitely ties into some of the things we were talking about before around data lineage and traceability. So especially in organizations like finance and insurance that are heavily regulated, they are mandated to be able to prove to the auditors, the regulators, that they have full control over data that's either financial data or privacy data. They have to show that they know exactly what happens to the data, all the systems that it goes through, and the transformations from when it enters their enterprise until it ends up getting produced out into external reports. And Adaptive is exactly suited for doing that. So the folks in the kind of compliance organizations is a great landing spot for Adaptive.
There's a great slide, James. I don't know if it's too difficult for you to bring up, but what actually Western Union and their organizational slide and how they use it. I don't know if you have that handy, but but there's all types of stakeholders involved in it. Obviously, James articulated the compliance side, but you've got data scientists, analytics. They're trying to find data. They want to apply analytics and understanding on what they're doing. So they spend a lot of time just
in those. What you were looking for?
Well, we're not. Yeah, this kind of gives you one slide. There was also an organizational view, but this gives you, an example of an implementation. So you can see on the bottom, the technical metadata, you see all those systems. So you see Talon and how Talon is moving, from an ETL process to, and how finance is involved, Excel spreadsheets, Power BI. You've got all kinds of complexity going on here.
And this is an interactive navigation map that Western Union built. So they can just click on this to bring up a Netezza database schema or a Salesforce report, right? Transformations coming out of Tableau or Talent or whatever. So this isn't just an image, right? This is a live. And then I think you were looking for this slide as another one.
Yeah, this gets to your question, Joseph. You can see the different teams and stakeholders. These are actually involved. Every one of these is involved in our user interface using our system. So you got architecture review boards, you've got practice review committees, you've got the Enterprise Data Council, Governance Council, you've got data sharing committees, data quality issues, data domain working groups, data engineers, data management. It goes all the way up to the executive team. And this is live too. So they can go in this system. If somebody, let's say an executive wants to see what's going on with data engineering or looking at the data domain working group, they can click on that and go and see exactly what's going on with charts and graphs and summary information of the types of projects and details that they're working on. And issues. Remember, issue management is a key thing. We track all the issues as well. Issue resolution. It's a huge thing. And this is all documented. This is a total audit trail. Everything is audited in this. So they have a history of why things were changed, who changed it, why they changed it, and the purpose. So that is extremely important as well.
Yeah, and this drill downs various levels. So like you can now see within their data stewards group the different areas, right, from marketing and compliance and customer analytics, billing, and so on. So yeah, so they've got quite a depth of integration across many levels of their enterprise.
Thank you for that, James. With that, James, why don't you've seen the traceability lineage, or do you want to go into the governance piece on that real quick, James? Then I would like to show the bank in a box stuff as well.
Okay. I haven't actually demonstrated the lineage. You want me to do that? Just take a few minutes?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, sure. So I was showing you this glossary. So let's drill into a particular business term. So now we're looking at a specific business term defining customer across their enterprise. I mean, there's all kinds of information and relationships about a business term, but I'm just going to focus on what we were showing in that slide where you had the glossary up at the top and then the modeling level and then the physical level. So these are the logical and physical elements that have traceability to the customer business term. So you can see some of them are database tables, logical entities, database columns, and so on. So let's grab one of these. So let's go look at this customer ID. So we've now moved very quickly from a glossary to a business term to a specific physical database column. And now if I'd like Adaptive to perform the lineage analysis to visualize where does data go to coming out of this specific column, I click on the graph icon in the top right. And so now what it's doing is it's leveraging the information that Adaptive's bridges have extracted from the physical database that this customer ID column is in, the ETL tools that have transformations that read data from that column, and ultimately the business intelligence reports you see on the far right that are receiving the data that are the end destination. So now we can see that end-to-end flow of data. And we can further help users understand this in this kind of visualization. So if you're looking for, say, PII data, on the right-hand side, I can say, how do I want to focus my attention in this? So for sensitive data, I'm going to say highlight for me wherever PII data is, and you can see it immediately highlights in red the PII data flowing across this data lineage.
That's cool.
Great. So Jeff, did you want to go into the bank in the box from here?
Yes, please. So Joseph, we just explained that slide we talked about with traceability and lineage. At a high level.
I was going to say this is it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we just showed that thread. So now remember, on any of this, you can classify the data. What he just showed you, like PII data, just to think you can do any type of reporting off of this. So show me all of my PII personal information data that's with this process, and all that will come back. They can see it. They can now understand what's critical, what's PII, run reports, understand risk levels, all of that type of stuff.
So this is so this is as is, right? So Adaptive's bridges have actually run against the databases and ETL tools and business intelligence tools to understand the current reality, the as is state of their IT systems, to see how data flows from this customer ID column outbound.
Okay.
So this is the current.
You know, this is a great documentation tool product as well, because this is not what's in somebody's head or what people think. This is actually what's going on in their systems and how data is moving and how it relates to each other. When they do this, they see redundancies and inconsistencies. They see like report rationalization. Why are we running these jobs that are producing all these reports? We don't need them. And then remember, a big use case is they're moving data to the cloud for whatever reasons, for analytics, or they're moving it for less cost. So this is an excellent way of understanding what data to move to the cloud in the most optimal way and manage that whole process. All right, James, you want to go to the bank in a box? We're really excited, especially, as you know, Joseph, what's going on.
Do you want Rich to show that?
Yeah, you might want to do the intro slide that shows the decomposition, that navigation map, just
sure.
Show the approach.
We're going to show this real quickly, and then we want to make sure we have enough time to
Eric.
Eric, we wanted Eric to show some stuff as well.
Yeah.
All right. So
Jeff, do you want to start from here?
Yeah. So this is as you can imagine, what's going on with crypto right now and the governance. I've been contacted by 3 groups already over the last couple of days. What kind of governance processes we can help on crypto? They don't have any governance. So, but this is all these banks, all these financial service organizations have obviously are enforced, need to meet certain regulations, right? So it could be financial regulations, it could be customer regulations, it could be risk, centric, regulations. Obviously, you got a lot going on with anti-money laundering and AML. So we're able now to map in all the regulations by country. So Western Union's opening some new banks in Europe, and we now have all the regulations we can bring in for those Germany, different countries in Europe, and we can map that to policy. So we have policy requirements that banks have to, their policies of how they enforce this. And then we have controls on those policies. And then based on those controls, they have to show required evidence, or they have to do rating self-assessments. And then, of course, if something's not in meeting the criteria, they have remediation plans. So all of that is out of the box. And then you have all the data controls. And then again, that has to have required evidence and self-assessments and remediation plans. But and then we map it all the way to their critical data elements. And so you have the enterprise functional models, the information models, and then we've already showed you lineage and traceability and all of that, and all the rules. We showed Western Union this, and they came back, said they've never seen anything like this that maps it right out of the box. Well, and the other note on this, just from an insurance and balance sheet, all the stuff that goes with this, just having this in place, if something goes wrong, you can say you have something. You're saying, hey, I'm working on it. I'm doing things around this to ensure governance, and you have a program in place. So anyway, this is a high level overview. So with that, let's actually demo it very quickly to you.
Yeah, hit that one more slide, James, which is the decomposition of a regulation. There you go.
Yeah, so this kind of focuses on an adaptive specific approach to implementing that framework that was in the previous slide, and you can kind of see the decomposition from a high level regulation into control areas and controls and subcontrols, and where the expected evidence is represented, and then this kind of triad of what a control is actually being tested against. So business functions from the process side of an enterprise, business applications from the technology side, and then the information and data side. So those are the three kind of dimensions, the triad, as I call it, for testing a particular control. So everything that's in colors here represents things that are provided out of the box in the framework that Adaptive has, based on the very deep domain expertise that we're leveraging. And the stuff that's in gray are the things that a customer is going to put in themselves, because it's their own enterprise, right? What applications do they have implemented? What are their own business terms? And then when they want to declare an assessment for compliance, they create an assessment, and then they refer to the specific control that's being assessed, and what aspects of that triad, which applications, which information, which business functions and processes are specifically being assessed in the context of a control.
So this again is just another navigation map. This is a conceptual representation of, let's say, a bank or some financial institution that has a series of regulations that they have to comply with. You have the glossary area, you have the org structure area, you have the regulation area, you have their functional area, right? And then the technical area. And then on the right here is a series of buttons to see the summary roll-ups, right? But like GDPR, for example, if you clicked on GDPR, we're going to a detailed view of that regulation, okay? And it has a lot of details, but I'll look at it graphically. And so just like James showed you, if we zoom in so you can actually read it, right? You've got a regulation that's broken into control areas, right? Like data integrity and quality and breach management and life cycle management. But when you get down to, a specific control, if you double click on it, then basically I'm starting to see more detail about what evidence, if they were going to do an assessment on this particular control, well, they should have at least these 4 pieces of evidence based on what the regulation requires. And so each and every one of these, when you click on it, gives you more information, basically. So this is just a high level view of the regulation itself, right? And then if I go back to the navigation map, what at the end of the day you're trying to do is there is in fact a business function framework that has been captured. And most banks will have a front office, all financial institutions have a front office, a mid office, a back office. Yeah. And each and every one of these functional areas or parts of the business then is potentially manipulating customer sensitive information or maybe even anti-money laundering financial information. So customer onboarding, obviously there's a lot of customer sensitive data in that part of the business. So the idea is you have the ability to choose the part of the business that represents something that you want to decide whether or not you're in compliance, right? And so if I, just clicked on market research and I'm now looking at a business functional area called market research, well, it's going to have a set of controls associated with it, right? Whereby those controls will have to have evidence. And if you're going to assess this part of the business called market research, and you're going to assess it relative to customer sensitive information, you're going to have to potentially look at your applications. You're going to have to look at the information that's being manipulated. And, if I looked at it graphically, we can see that market research has quite a few controls associated with it. It's being enabled by, in this case, sample applications. Like most customers will only have maybe one or maybe two applications that enable that part of the business. But these are typical applications that financial institutions use for that part of the business. One of the beautiful things is the auditor can come in, and if the auditor comes in and sees how, I guess, professional and organized that the people are, the company is, wow, they're capturing the framework, they're capturing the information model, right? The information model is dealing with master data and reference data and market data and risk data. And each and every one of these pieces of data might be GDPR related or a critical data element from a different point of view. So there's a functional framework, there's an informational framework, there's a regulatory control framework, and they're all intersected together. And at the end of the day, what you want then to be able to do is have the roll up. What's the health of my organization, right? Relative to some specific scorecard that you've assessed, right? So this is a simple scorecard where you assess whether you're strong, unacceptable, the part of the business. This is health relative to each control. How are we doing? Need improvement. Then you can click on these and, and drill down to the detail. Okay, this particular control, data security, incident detection, monitoring, is inadequate. Okay, it's about a part of this control is associated with market research, right? And there is an application called Axiom, which was assessed, and it was determined through this particular assessment that there was some breaches in the security for access control. And there's huge fines involved. And so then the assessment said that this is urgent and that we need to, and the date and who the assessor was. And, I could actually, drill down on the assessment itself and basically look at the assessment now and find out exactly what's going on. Well, who did the assessment, right? And
I would just say, I think, Joseph, the key points here, this is a framework where we've now associated all these things together. They're all connected.
Right.
This is all semantically connected out of the box. So these
Yes,
organizations,
right.
they may want to add their processes and their specific applications that they can now add to this, or they can modify as needed. But it gives them a huge, huge leapfrog on capability around doing this.
Yeah, these are domains that could be exposed to the various roles in the enterprise. Okay. So I have it wide open here with a lot of them. I think it's important to narrow this down initially, as James said, by role, so that they aren't overwhelmed, because this is enterprise wide and it could be too much to absorb. So you want to narrow it with a navigation map and the particular areas of functional information actions over here, right? So,
And like
So-
when
so-
James showed that slide of Western Union by organization you saw earlier, each one of
Yeah.
them has their own, this is all configurable. So they only see the things that are applicable that they want to see based on
Okay,
that role.
yeah,
Rich is showing you everything right now because he's an administrator role. So he's got it wide
Understand.
open.
yeah, like PII, like James showed you. Boom, I clicked on all and now I can see that there's 13 entities in this case, a bunch of controls, a bunch of evidence, and I can open up each one of these, right? And then drill down. Every one of these objects here are in fact associated with PII information, and I could drill strictly, directly down.
So we call ourselves the operating system for the real world. Spark Compass has the ability to understand who, what, where, when, and the activity that that person is doing at the moment of time. We're going to go in, and we're very lucky to be able to see actual live data that's been collected at University of Mississippi, Hotty Toddy and Go Rebels, and how this system was utilized for a fan engagement platform. I know we haven't spoken much about ourselves, so I'd like to introduce myself real quick as a way of hello. I used to work on subsea robotics. That's my sub that is now in a museum. Later on worked with on the space shuttle. Like to say it as often as I can. I used to be a rocket scientist, and now later worked with Qualcomm. You obviously know Qualcomm. I had some patents there, and now while I was at Qualcomm, I helped build a couple of things. Augmented reality, proximity beacons, as well as what's now known as 5G. And it was known 10 years ago that there was going to be a world where we would have a lot of data. We're going to be able to collect a lot of data. We're going to be able to act on the data. But then what? How do we do that? And that's what Spark Compass came about. It's data with a purpose. You've heard this many times before, this ability to take the right action, the right message to the right person at the right time and place. That's what we do, and we're going to show how we do that. But we can also prove that we've done so, and then we can repeat it. And that's where we can then monetize that capability, because again, it's proven that it delivers. So this is a very simplistic overview of what the Spark Compass methodology is. And there's no technology in here, but for lay people, laymen, they like this kind of representation. Now, imagine if you have a system where you can understand a series of parameters such as who, what, where, when, location. And if such a system could have a series of triggers that automatically delivers and acts or activates the system, whether that is sound, whether that's location, whether that's looking at something. And if such a system has the ability to activate content, and you don't have to activate the content on the fly, but you can preload the system, and you can preload the system and pre-program the system to deliver an outcome. Why are we doing? Are we trying to enhance? Are we trying to encourage? Are we trying to reward? And if such a system can then automatically, based on parameters, triggers, content distribution, verify, reward, and repeat, then all of a sudden you have an ecosystem. And that's the essence of what Spark Compass does. So as you know, you've gone through our patents, so you know that we have the ability to understand context. We communicate contextual awareness to our centralized computation device. We combine contextual awareness with knowledge, and based on the combination of knowledge and we combine and serve up curated content for the person at the right time and place. So that's the essence of the Spark Compass, one of the mother patents. As you know, we have other patents that describe then the business model around this, and then also the data storage. Now we have tons of code. I'm going to go really fast through a couple of stuff. So we have code like we've seen that Adaptive has as well. So again, the ability to have this ability to act on data, and that's really the core of Spark Compass, is this event action-based system where we not only are looking at the data, but we're acting on the data. And we're acting on data from real world to deliver real world interactions. And this ability to understand who, what, where, when, the ability to apply a series of different utilities on it, whether it's campaign management or AR or NFTs, all combined in one dashboard. And then, of course, to deliver the outcome based on location and context. And of course, when you then have the ability to understand the data, act on the data, verify the data, govern the data, and ensure that you're in compliance, all of a sudden you're leapfrog again beyond just quote unquote the action event-based system that Spark Compass is. And so that's really where this is an ecosystem. As you'll see this live in a moment. It has an app interface. We have sensors in the physical world. We can interact with equipment in the physical world. We can enable online, offline, online communications, or online, offline, online interactions. It's a campaign management system, as you will see. It's data from the real world. We can store data on the blockchain and do all the benefits of the blockchain separately without using the blockchain as an operating system. We can integrate with third parties. This is a map, right? And this is the ecosystem that Spark Compass has. And now all of a sudden, the patents that we have, where you have the intelligence, you have the business model, and you have the data storage as the three mother patents, makes sense as a part of the strategy, right? And so when we are talking about these elements, these are not just ideas or concepts. These are actually live deployments that have been deployed in a variety of settings that we're going to talk about, where we have had stadiums, we've had airports, hospitals, convention centers activated with such a system, multiple apps, multiple clients. We're going to talk more about those. So real world interactions, real world campaigns, we have enabled KOL and NIL activities and activations, all monetized. We integrated with a whole bunch of systems. We have system integration partners, as you will see, and we have the ability to now take this data set and create that into digital twins, is what we used to call it in the old days, now into the metaverse. So if that is a desire, the ability to authenticate and have a single sign-on, all built into this ecosystem, as you will see, and you will see a live instance. And that's really what it is. It is combining the digital and the physical, phygital, as you know. But unlike a lot of people that are talking about it, we've done it. We've been live. We stored a lot of data. And now, of course, with an integration with Adaptive, we can prove and showcase the data points, and you will see some of the data points. Here's one of those elements where Adaptive can sit in the middle as far as monitoring and measuring the data, but the interactions, the data combinations, and the communication is driven by Spark Compass. So it's a communication tool. And then we have the ability to also store in a DeFi or a DLT the collected data and the data results, as you will see as well. So Spark Compass is a real-time communication platform where we capture data on our system, right? So it's an app interface where any interaction that a person does within that ecosystem is a data point. So you click on a button, you look at a content, or you walk in the door, or stand in front of a product. Those are data points that the system collects. And then it stores that data system as a record: who, what, where, when, what was the action, what was the phone. And then the system can take action on that data set if that indeed is something that triggers an event, such as you get a reward, you get a discount, you get a welcome message, you get points, or you are in compliance with the health records and you are actually doing the exercise you're supposed to do, and the doctor is told that yes, you are in compliance with your checklist compliance. So where we differ is that we are a source of data that we collect through our system. That's something that is unique in our capabilities. Now, the other element on the data side of the, if you remember on the slide where we looked at the knowledge, that's where we can integrate with third-party data sets. So a user profile, right? A user profile, a user records, location information, and that's where Adaptive will come in and enable us to have the map of the data across all sources.
Yeah, I would just add, or from my perspective, is that think of Adaptive. We bring in all the internal data, structured data, right? So how things relate to each other, you can put rules to it, governance processes, everything. Eric's capability extends to the unstructured world and allows him to gather data and actually market, from a marketing perspective, sales perspective, user group, users, points programs, all of that type of stuff that we can actually feed his program, but he also feeds our program. That's right.
There are I got it. There are touch points that Eric is going to bring to the table that you wouldn't bring to the table necessarily, Jeff, that'll build upon your third-party data that you guys have done a great job on. Those touch points he also calls data, and he's able to build really intelligence around that can bring value to the intended clientele, if you will.
Exactly. Or we could have, based on the structure of data we have rules associated. It could feed his system to enforce those rules. Out as well. So, like we're like at Dell, for example, where they have an information bus and on our parts and inventory and stuff, parts and components of products and so forth. So we feed their operational systems. The same thing can be leveraged with Eric's technology.
Well, that's very helpful, Jeff, and thanks for that. And that's really where our combined offering is so unique. And where it's so natural that we combine, because we're supplementing each other. We're not doing the same thing. And you asked a couple of questions earlier that I think is important to highlight. We've been live. We were sole source selected in the state of California as well as Mississippi. As you know, sole source selection in California is very tricky to get. We were also approved by the Homeland Security, U.S. Department of Transportation, FAA, to have an installation at the San Diego airport, which was very both sides of the security fence. So you can imagine the security requirements to get that. And we have had a bunch of partners, and we deployed in some high level and high profile implementations. So yes, this is out of the box ready. And that's a key, right? It's proven, it's deployed. And since it is similar in that it's modular, as you will see, we can integrate, and we can also integrate with legacy systems. And as you will see, we have this integrated where this is all live, this is all activated. We store data on a blockchain, as you will see. And we have been partnered or have partnered with a couple of players that were powerful. Gimbal, proximity beacons from Qualcomm, first mobile payment system that was later shut down way too early. We launched indoor navigation with Apple, and we launched the first wearable enterprise solution with Samsung, and also the first containerized wearable deployment, both at the San Diego International Airport.
Okay.
These are big things, right? Because when you're a launch partner, that's important. We're a partner with AWS on the IoT side. They as well as our friends at IBM, obviously IBM Watson. I don't know if you know Dr. Puri, that's who I was working with, other people at IBM Watson. And they have identified this where we differ from what they do, right? And this is also where we differ from Adaptive. And that's the ability to take unstructured data, as Jeff said, from the physical world and aggregate that into a platform, and then do whatever analysis we want to do on that data to deliver an output, and then take that output and put it into the physical world, thereby proving a model that can drive behavior, not online or in data ontology on of itself, but actual physical behavior of people. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So as you will see, that's part of what we do, and we're partners with Google. We can talk a lot about that, but they are really enjoying us and are seeing us as a differentiator in the space, particularly in sports. Introduced us to the International Bowling Federation as well as FIFA. And as soon as we are ready, they will introduce us to MLB, NBA, and NFL here in the US. We have some big partnerships. We have some big deployments. One of the things we typically do is that when we're looking at user behavior, let's talk about sports real quickly, because we're going to talk and showcase a use case around that. Most others are talking about what's happening in the stadium, right? They're focusing on the game in and of itself. But really, in order to have a fan relationship, you need to look at the entire journey. And since we're contextually intelligent, we can understand where the user is on that journey. we can enhance that moment of time for that user, and then we can verify that we deliver benefits for them, reward them for behavior, so that that fan will come back again. This is a differentiation that Google is very excited about. HCL is one of our system integration partners. We have also partners with DXC, Autos, and CGI, which are all the 4 big ones. This is University of Mississippi. All right. So University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, 22,500 students. Yet we have 26,500 users. Now, this is very unusual that we're allowed to show real data. Right. I could not show this in the US, in Europe, because this would be a huge GDPR compliance issue. So but we have permission from our friends at Oxford. So I'm going to zoom in now. I'm sorry for making a little dizzy. I'm going to go to Oxford, Mississippi, where University of Mississippi is. Have you ever been to Ole Miss?
You know what? Unfortunately, I have not, but it's a great school.
Oh, it's fantastic, right? So all of these purple areas are what we call a geofence, right? A geofence means that it's a digital boundary, as you will see. This is around the stadium, main football stadium. And whenever anybody that is part of our ecosystem crosses that geofence, that's an event. The platform will record that moment of time with the user's device, the user's profile, the time, and exact location when they crossed. That's kind of cool, right? So now all of a sudden we can know when somebody walks into the stadium. And if it happens to be on a day when there's a game, and we've told them, if you come and watch Mississippi beat Alabama, which happened once, then you get 10 points, right? So now we can verify that they've done that. Now, setting up a geofence is very simple. And whenever we do that, if we want to say now go into Starbucks and set a new location, I can click here, Starbucks. This is like live. I'm doing this live. Okay. Starbucks. Okay.
Also, anyone who's using your software has the ability to do this?
Pardon me?
Anyone using your software has the ability to do this from
Yep.
administration perspective?
That's
Okay.
right. So then I set a geofence. So boom, 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 boom. Okay. Now, if anybody when anybody crosses this geofence, that's an event that we know. We can then send them, they're walking by, we can send them a message to come in, right?
Yeah.
So I'll show you how we did that. So now go back to the stadium. You can see the stadium here. Now I want to know more about the person inside the stadium. Then in the same ecosystem, we have beacons. Each of these little devices are a Bluetooth beacon. And that means that when anybody with our system comes into proximity to this, the system knows that as an event. That's an event that is recorded and retained, and we can act on it. So now say that we know that's a concessionaire stand right here on the S2, S3. We know somebody's walking in the door right here. The moment they walk in the door, we can send them a message and saying, if you walk up 2 stairs, hang a right and then hang a left and go over to the concession at S2, S3, Coca-Cola will give you a free hot dog if you buy a Coke. That can be delivered right here and then, right? So this ability to have segmentation based on exact location, exact proximity, based on the parameters for a customer, all of a sudden we can drive behavior. The beacon is it's the size of a fire alarm, battery operated, cost me $20. There's no connectivity. It has a double sticky back on the back. Place it on the wall. Battery life about a year. We know when it's below, when the battery is coming down. We can also have a beacon like this, which is a USB beacon that is can go into a USB slot. Okay. We include those as part of the ecosystem. So at the Ole Miss, you can see we have literally hundreds of beacons across the whole campus. And of course, these scores a lot of data. Now, we didn't see this as far as the presentation that we did, but the app interface is all controlled from this platform. So the app interface, each of the features and functionalities of the app is adaptable and changeable real time from the platform. meaning that the app interface is it's an interface into the platform, all controlled from the platform. Interactions, updates, games, data storage, scheduling, sharing, all controlled from the back end. Now, we have a series of people that are taking pictures of themselves. And as you would imagine, typically you would have thought this would be students, but these are actually older. And why would they take pictures of themselves? Well, within our system, if you do, you get a point, you get extra points, and you get a chance to be featured inside the app. This is a kissing cam on steroids, right? So within the system, we have points redemption, we have the rewards systems, we have messaging, we have campaign management, we can email, push notification, text notifications, all from one interface. That's why this is a communication platform. It's an intelligent communication platform that understands who we're talking with, where they are, and what they're doing, and we can thereby serve them up an interface that's activated on that. Geofence, we talked about geofences, we talked about beacons, we have augmented reality activations inside of here, we have NFC activations, we have smart displays. This is a similar situation like in a minority report experience. These were, I can show you live, these were inside the basketball arena. This is a monitor, and there's a couple of things going on here. We have a live leaderboard, we have a Facebook feed, we have a Twitter feed. Each of these tiles, if you were to come in and stand in front of this screen, you would be welcome, Joseph, and say, welcome to the game. You earned 10 points today. That interaction, this tile will flip over and your picture, your profile shot will be shown here. And the system will record and retain that you stood in front of this display at the moment when this slider here has a ad server from Google Ad Server. So now we can verify and prove that you looked at an ad. We can verify and prove that you were standing in it, and we can then deliver information about that ad directly to your phone as you're standing there. So we can really truly verify that you have been on location. Multiple different technologies activated within one interface. That's why we talked about the single source, the single interface. Now you can imagine capturing and we talked about this event-based system, right? It is a system where any interaction that occurs in the app, any interactions that occurs with any of the geofences, wherever they are in the world, there's no limitations to putting up a geofence. There's no cost associated with it. There's no requirement to put anything on site. Yet the system collects data, right? 26,500 students. That's active users, there's 22,000 students. Only really activated in Oxford, Mississippi. That's really where we are activated. And yet we collect a lot of data. Let's look at some of the data. So now we're looking at the raw data. It's going to take a little bit of time to aggregate it. You will see that we have 15 million data records of up to 10 data sources each record. So it's a massive amount of data, right? Now say that we wanted to see what happened on 21st of July and where key blank was, boom, we can see now we press the system, we look at that actions, and all of a sudden we can see that they interacted with our phone or with our system at some time while they were driving on the freeway US 20A outside of Oxford, Mississippi. So this is recording an event. So we're recording an event where if you are crossing a geofence, but also wherever you are when you interact with the system is recorded and retained and can drive a behavior, whether that's as simple as an if this, then that, or more advanced IBM Watson algorithms that would look at what the weather is at this time, where the closest, I have no idea where this is, or it's actually close to the stadium. All of a sudden we can see that we can drive this person either to the soccer stadium, or maybe we want to drive them to a, I don't know, there's some stores close by. Oh, there's a little gas station over here. Maybe they're on the way to the gas station. We can welcome to the gas station. So now talk about the Western Union, right? Yeah. They have locations around the world, right? Yeah. it would be beneficial. It could be beneficial for them to have a data sets to know when somebody is nearby or going into a Western Union location, right?
Yeah.
They have thousands of locations, so doing those manually will be difficult. We can upload those with a CVS file, and all of a sudden, all of those locations are activated, and they will know when somebody walks by or walk in. Now, that's an extra data sense, and they can then see how can we ensure that somebody that walks in actually utilizes our services, right? That's number one. Number two, we can also enable them to put a geofence around competing mom and pop stores and or other providers. So we can do what's called geo-conquesting. So the moment somebody walks into a competitor, we can encourage them to come back to a Western Union location and enable them to then have a benefit by going to Western Union, where it will be cheaper or better than going into the competitor.